In Hollywood, most celebrities handle awkward questions with one of two reactions. They either explode or awkwardly laugh it off, hoping to move on. But not Keanu Reeves. He doesn't need to yell. He doesn't need to insult anyone. He just stays calm, keeps his poise, and leaves interviewers stunned and speechless. This is the story of how Keanu Reeves mastered the art of silent dominance, one awkward question at a time. Let's start with a mistake you should never make in front of Keanu Reeves, mixing up his most iconic role.
Is Bill's voice going to come back naturally? Is it hard to get back into the actual voice, the cadence of Bill?
I played Ted.
Oh my God.
You just lost all of your cred, dude. That's right. That's what you should do right now, because you just lost all of your Bill and Ted cred.
And in that one moment, he flipped the power dynamic.
I don't know.
I thought in Bill and Ted 3 you were playing the other role. That's what happened.
Nice try.
What's coming up next for you? What are you shooting next? No, don't be like that. What's coming up next?
I forgive, but I don't forget.
Oh, damn you.
The host apologized. The audience laughed. And Keanu, he just smiled. No harsh tone, no eye roll. But that was just the warm-up. The next question, way more personal and way more awkward. During a British morning show, Keanu was casually asked what kind of girls does he like.
And what sort of girls do you like?
Oh gosh, what sort of girls do I like?
Stop! What? I'm not answering that question here, and I didn't answer it then. And what kind of girls? I mean, look at my reaction to that.
He shut it down, respectfully, but firmly.
And yeah, so that was then, and this is now.
No drama, no sass, just calm control. Because for Keanu, privacy isn't a request, it's a boundary. And if you cross it, he'll remind you, gently. But some interviewers don't ask awkward questions. Some ask weird ones. Stephen Colbert once challenged Keanu with a question that wasn't even a question.
Describe the rest of your life in 5 words.
What kind of question is that?
It's not a question, it's a demand. There's no question mark there.
Okay, well then I'm gonna be hopeful. Health, love, friendship, create art, motorcycles.
Now, most guests would stumble. Maybe they'd give a joke answer. But Keanu, he paused. He thought. Then he responded. Just a beautifully poetic answer that stunned the crowd into applause. Some celebs dodge a discomfort. Keanu turns it into art. But the next moment, that took real class. Jimmy Kimmel once brought up a very bold topic. In one of Keanu's films, he had an explicit scene with a woman who happened to be the director's wife.
Sex scene with you and the girls.
Yeah.
And one of the women in the film is married to the director, Eli Roth.
Yes.
It's his wife.
Yes.
And you have a very explicit sex scene with her. Was that more uncomfortable than they usually are?
Not for me, Jimmy.
The room laughed, but Keanu quickly shifted the tone. He spoke about the trust and professionalism on set, rehearsals, respect, and how everyone was focused on making art.
You know, Eli had created a great situation of trust and rehearsal, but eventually you have to like get naked and simulate and do. And
Yeah.
I mean, I wasn't that guy who was like, "Hey, Eli, your wife's hot."
You weren't.
You know, like,
You weren't, yeah.
hey, you're like every day, like, I can't wait for the sex scene. I mean, she's a fine actress, but you know, no, there was
There was none of that?
There was.
Well, maybe
I
for the
didn't do
sequel, that would be something.
Yeah. No, he was really cool. Everyone was good.
It was playful, but classy. He owned the moment, but never crossed the line. That's Keanu, the man who makes even uncomfortable questions comfortable. But not all moments are funny. Some are just straight up disrespectful. During another interview, British host Jonathan Ross tried to be clever. He brought up that Keanu's mother was from Essex and then joked that he didn't blame her for running away.
Here's something I did not know about you. I didn't know this at all. I didn't know that your mum was from this country, so you are half English.
I am.
I didn't know that.
Actually, my mother is from Essex.
Oh, is she really?
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
I don't know.
We're everywhere. We're everywhere.
Well, no, my mother ran away from home when she was really young.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Ran away from Essex. I don't blame her.
I don't know.
Keanu didn't take the bait. Instead, he softly smiled and leaned back.
So I've never met my mother's family.
Well, while you're over, maybe we could bring them together.
No, don't do
Okay.
Sometimes, the best comeback is not a clapback. It's just telling the truth. Then came Jimmy Kimmel teasing Keanu for being a comic book nerd at 50.
You know, I have to say, you don't seem like a comic book nerd, but I guess you are.
I don't know if I rate nerdy. I might have lost my nerd card as I got older.
Yeah.
Because when I was younger, I was pretty friggin' nerdy.
Yeah.
With the comics. Going to the comic book store, getting all the different
Oh, yeah,
comics.
all that stuff.
Keanu didn't get defensive. He smiled, then doubled down.
Stuff.
Put
I
them out
feel like, though, is like when you're a kid and you're a comic book nerd, and then you whatever, and then but then you sit when you hit 50 and you're still into comic books, you're a nerd. You know?
All right, man, I'll be a nerd. I'm
I'm the same.
And just like that, what was meant to be a jab became a badge of honor. He made being a comic book nerd look cool. Kimmel tried again, this time mocking Toronto, Keanu's hometown, and its infamous former mayor.
Let's see. The first job was a show, and I grew up in Toronto, Canada, and it was called, that was kind of...
People from Toronto are they're a little bit slower to identify themselves since Mayor Ford came around, I think. Yeah. they keep it under their hats a little bit more.
And then, so what was a television show called Hanging In, and I got to play a tough guy, and my line was, "Hey, lady, where's the bathroom?"
Most celebs would defend their city, or laugh nervously. Keanu? He just paused, looked at Kimmel, and moved on. No words, no reaction. Just calm, calculated silence. Sometimes silence is the sharpest response. But Keanu's wisdom doesn't stop there, especially when interviewers push too far. From ammo storage to stunts, interviewers have asked Keanu some insane questions about John Wick.
How many more of these do you think you got in you? I mean, I imagine it takes a toll.
It does, but it's gift. You know, if there wasn't any toll, then, you know, you're not traveling, right? You're paying a toll so you can get somewhere, man. It's really up to the audience, and I mean, I think the story in the world, you know, could be revealed, and you know, there's stories to tell there. But I don't know. Physically, I don't know.
Do you personally have a direction where you'd like to see John go from here?
First things first. Hopefully people enjoy the film and we get that opportunity.
That line hit like a mic drop. But when the topics turn philosophical, Keanu shines even brighter. When asked about rebellion and authority, Keanu didn't dodge. He leaned in and dropped truth.
No, rebellion is good.
It is?
It is, of course. You can't just kick out rebellion.
Even though it feels so impulsive?
Yeah, but it feels good.
Yes, it does!
And if you're barking and, you know, it depends on what you do with your bite. Rebellion is usually a thoughtful gesture.
He answered, and then came this gem.
I'm not a fighter, I'm a lover.
I don't know, because if you're a lover, you got to be a fighter.
How so?
Because if you don't fight for your love, what kind of love do you have? No, I'm kidding.
That wasn't a line. That was life advice. No slogans, just quiet, thoughtful reflection from a man who's clearly lived it. But even when the internet misjudges him, Keanu handles it with grace. A viral photo once showed Keanu at a wedding in London. The internet claimed he crashed it. The truth, he was invited.
But I saw this photo that everyone was talking about on the internet. You crashed someone's wedding in London.
I didn't crash.
Well, it looks like you weren't invited. I don't know, unless...
I was invited to meet some folks and take a photo. No, it was outside, and there was another part of the hotel, and it was outside of London, and they were having a wedding, and then the groom came by, and he was like, hi, and I was like, hi. And then he was like, do you want to take a picture with everybody? And I said, yeah, sure, let's do it, and meet some folks. And then we went in there, and I said hi, and hi, and hi, and then we took some photographs, and that's one of the photographs.
They made their
one of these things does not belong, and it was me.
I would have sang Hey Jude with them if they asked me,
It was really lovely. It was cool.
That's cool that you do that stuff.
No publicity, no spotlight, just a quiet moment of kindness that the internet turned into a rumor. And Keanu, he laughed it off. One interviewer called Keanu sane, and he didn't let it slide.
But you don't, that's the thing about you really don't. You don't have all of that.
I don't.
And I think that's probably what keeps you sane. Because I would imagine having all
Sane?
that. Yeah.
You think I'm sane?
I do. I really do, yeah.
Why, the other one's all mad?
Yeah.
All crazy?
He smiled, then replied politely.
sucked into the
No.
craziness. But you don't seem to do that, though. That's what's
I
really
lead a
good.
very quiet,
Yeah.
normal kind of. Really, I mean, my private life is a boring disaster, but work is good.
You're gorgeous.
And you're lovely.
That's who Keanu is. Not just calm, principled. He doesn't raise his voice. He doesn't fight back. He just listens, smiles, and responds with quiet strength. He turns awkward moments into poetry. He flips insults into jokes. And he protects his boundaries without ever breaking a sweat. Being loud is easy. Being calm under pressure? That takes power. And that's why Keanu Reeves doesn't need to destroy his critics. They destroy themselves, while he just sits back and smiles.